Hi, y'all. It's Bridget Cutshall with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Ralph Pasquariello. He is a specialist in cybersecurity, and for the past 14 years, he's been moderating and speaking at dozens of conferences and panels around cybersecurity and data breach risk management. He's worked with lots of many different organizations. Can you say hi, Ralph?
Hello, Bridget.
It's nice to see you. And for people who don't know, Ralph and I used to work together a long time ago when we were a lot younger.
Yeah.
We
Uh,
reconnected again because I love what he's doing, because talking about cybersecurity sounds kind of boring, but it's so important. I shouldn't say boring, but it's very important. People need to be aware of this. And so what prompted you to get into this side of the business?
well, it was probably 15 years ago when I left my other industry and I jumped into property and casualty insurance. But I found, it was kind of, I want to say boring. It was writing workers' comp and things like that. And I immediately gravitated towards the errors and omissions, which is like professional liability. So, which led to tech errors and omissions. And then eventually that morphed into data breach insurance and then full blown cyber insurance. And so I've kind of dedicated the last 15 years to cyber liability, which is very, very close to cybersecurity. We touch each other every day. And so I did that for 15 years. And then about a year ago, I decided to go a different direction, stay with cyber liability, but fix something in the industry that's been broken for a long time. And I've witnessed that for many, many years. And that's what led us to me getting involved with the TTC, which is the Tech Collective, and eventually with our care program.
That's
So,
cool. And their tech collective, they're here in Metro Atlanta.
yes. Yeah.
That's really cool that you're doing that. You see so many things that people don't talk about, or it's hidden. Is that the right word? People try to,
Right.
they're embarrassed if they get some kind of a security break or data breach. There's so
Mhm.
much, especially now we're relying so much on tech, right?
Yeah. Well, we rely on systems that, you know, protect us and also systems that keep us running, our network running and all that. And it's all affected, as you know, today with all of the breaches going on. And you mentioned that. And it's funny that, I do work with the cyber task force with the Secret Service here in Atlanta. And I'm kind of an advisor to them. I recently spoke at one of the events on June 10th at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Oh,
It
cool.
was cool. I was a keynote speaker, which I didn't expect, launching a new program. But, I found out through the course of my history and my experience that um, there are like more than 50% of these events, like data breaches and cyber attacks, malware attacks, that go unnoticed, not unnoticed, but people just they don't make it to the public. They go
Right.
unreported. And so it kind of skews the numbers. We know it's big, it's huge, but it's a lot bigger than we really know about. It's dangerous.
What do you think one of the reasons people aren't sharing that they're embarrassed about it?
No, they just they don't want to go public with it
Ah,
because lack of their integrity and their business interruption and things. They just don't want, they lose business because of it.
gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is, I don't know about embarrassment, but it's a
Right, reputation, it could have their word is gonna affect their reputation. Right, that's
reputational
kinda
harm. Yeah. So
that is it's still scary, and I think we need to be more aware of this, and we need to protect ourselves just like every business probably, doesn't matter the size, I'm
it,
assuming, right?
it doesn't, it doesn't. Small, medium to large companies all get hacked. It's like every 11 seconds now where there's a cyber attack and malware and all that ransom attacks and all that. And it's just, especially with artificial intelligence now coming on
Yeah.
board and the bad guys use it. We try to use it for security, but they're using it as well for threats and all of the risks that are coming our way.
Ralph and I talked previously in another conversation. I think most of it is starting to happen through, like, email. That's the highest risk, right? Through emails?
It is, the weakest link to any organization is employees. It's so important to train employees to know what it looks like, but they're so good. I mean, the emails that come in, a lot of times companies, people will click on an email. It looks official. It looks authentic. What happens is you may click on an email and nothing happens, and it's like, whoa, what was that? Well, maybe it was a glitch. Maybe it wasn't. The bad guys get into your network, and the term is called BEC, which is business email compromise.
Okay.
That's the tech term. And what happens is the bad guys get into your network and they start filling with all the rules in your emails, so they control your emails going inbound, outbound. And that's where a lot of these things occur, like invoice manipulation, which is really, really rampant right now. And that's they get into your system and they take an invoice and they change the routing instructions. It
Oh my
is an
God.
actual invoice and it's from you, but the recipient of that invoice pays the bill to an offshore account. So they do change the routing instructions. And the other thing is too that, Bridget, when people get, the bad guy gets in their network, they can be in their network for, 150, 200 days before people realize they're in the network. And that's about the average right now for discovery time. It's almost, it's like
Oh, wow.
200 days. They can do a lot of damage in your network before you even realize it. So it's
They're
horrendous when it happens.
they're listening the entire time. Is that the right word? They're
Then they're
listening.
not only listening, they're gaining all the information. They know
Yes.
who's who. They know the accountants. They know, your billing cycle. They know just about everything about you. So their reconnaissance is really, really good. They do their due diligence. And when it's time to attack and exploit whatever they're going to do, they're ready for it. And it's lethal in some
And that
cases.
and they're like watching or monitoring because they're looking for vulnerable people like you mentioned, right? It's just
Absolutely.
the employees are and it's affecting everybody, not just businesses, but I think businesses are gonna most be affected by this. And this is just really freaky that this is happening. I should say freaky, but it's true. We should talk about it more. And you had mentioned you guys developed this, not you guys, the tech collective developed the CARE report, and CARE is an acronym. Can you explain what that is?
Yes. So, and that's kind of my fix what is broken. And,
Okay.
over the last 10, 15 years, when I go into insure companies and when I would go in insure companies, we would sit in the boardroom with the powers to be and say, okay, I'm here to fix your insurance. Either your security people brought me in or your attorney or your CPA had advised that I look at your insurance. And the CFOs always, they give me the straight arm and they say, well, we're compliant. We're all set on our insurance. So I said, well, why am I here? I'm here for a reason. And usually like 80, 90% of the times when I go in and I look at their insurance policies, the cyber insurance policies, professional policies, um, the limits are low. They're way low to where they should be. And this was my mission is to go in and help companies say, look, the CFO always says we're in compliance because we do business with this company, XYZ company, and they want us to have 5 million or 10 million worth of insurance as far as limits. So that drives the CFO to what his limits are going to be. He will purchase enough in order to get the contracts for either vendors, suppliers, and clients. And that's a really bad answer because there's no financial risk quantification that goes on. And that's where we come in. We actually go in and we will benchmark companies with their peers, with the size company they are, an identical company to them. And we have the information to benchmark them and say, look, you're at for instance, you're at a $10 million limit on your policy. All of your peers and all of the analytics show us that you should be at 30 million for financial risk.
Oh, okay.
So that void of a $20 million spread is huge, especially when companies get hit. they don't realize that there are so many indicators. There's so many costs involved with a breach. Um, there's like a 20 line item on a policy, on a deck page, on an insurance policy, and business interruption is the most um, unqualified risk that there is. People don't realize they're going to be down for 30 days, maybe longer. So when you have if a company's doing six or $700 million a year in production and manufacturing, and they're down for 30 days, that's just one cost. And we have remediation costs and restoration, and we have forensics, and we have legal, we have notification costs, we have all third party damages as far as that goes, and first party damages. So it adds up really, really quickly. And so that's when we see it, we go in and we assess them and say, you're at here, but you should be here for your coverages. Um, so the analytics and the benchmarking proves that, and it's been spot on since we've been doing this.
Wow. So is there, as you were talking, it made me think, is there a particular industry that is most targeted? Do you think it's the financial industry or
Healthcare number one right
healthcare?
now. Yeah, and it's really and then you also get into a lot of the fines. So HIPAA, if you have a health information, it's called PHI. You have information on, say, 2 million patients. You have to notify them, and you have to do credit monitoring and all of that. So that adds up real quickly as well. And it's just, the downtime is one thing, but the damages, people just underestimate always.
That is, I mean, yeah, I just got chills as you were talking because you just don't know the people that are hiding in the back. And I've noticed recently, Ralph, which I think is a good thing, like online financial accounts that I have, they have extra security steps for me. It's kind of, I shouldn't be annoyed to have to add extra, login stuff, but they're doing that to protect me and them, other clients and themselves, right? That
Yeah,
is,
that's a multi-factor. So two-factor or multi-factor
uh-huh.
authentication on financial stuff, on anything, you should have it really because it protects you from people spoofing and social engineering and things like that. And, I always say you go beyond the two-factor. And I can, a claim that we had recently last year was an invoice manipulation. And
Oh,
the controller of company A that sent out, the invoice, company B that received it, re- it replied to them and said, "Hey, we noticed you changed your routing instructions." So they emailed them back, said, "We noticed you changed your routing instructions." And the bad guy was in the email, of course, and he grabbed it and he replied back to the company, said, "Yes, we changed our banks. We had to. And
oh,
any other questions, let me know." So the bad guy replied to verify the instruction change for where the money was going. So that in itself is not two factor. Two factors, you
right.
have a phone or you have a password, or you have a secret code password
Mhm.
so that people know it's you and it authenticates who you are. And I say that to even personal, your home computers. You should
Yeah,
do the same thing. And
right.
we've seen smaller companies get hit with ransom attacks, malware attacks, and all of that. And that's why when you said large companies, small companies, they all need it. Um, if you have a small company and you're out of business for 30 days, or you succumb to a really bad hit, takes your system down, your network down. We recently had some in the and you read it on the internet, um, of a supplier of security, and it affected thousands of companies, and it was a network outage, and thousands of companies were down for many, many days. And
Wow.
it's a systemic type outage, and that happens, and it happens a lot. And it doesn't matter what size company you have. You can't put payroll on or pay your bills or any of that stuff. It just adds up so quickly. So,
Again, and I was thinking of all these thoughts going on in my head. You think it's better or is it safer to have this in the cloud stuff? afford to have. Back in the day, we had lots of
Mm.
personal
You know,
servers. I'm curious. I'm just curious.
funny you asked that because years ago, I would have a meeting with clients and CFOs, and they'd be like, "Well, what? Our system is safe. Our information is safe because we're in the cloud." And it's like it's a false sense of security. I mean, the cloud is basically an extension of your hard drive.
Right.
So, that can be hacked. So you're only as good as the security team that backs you,
Right.
and how much you're patching, and how up to date you are on your security. And that's another thing we do also. So we're not writing insurance. I don't write insurance any
Right.
longer. I work with clients. I work with the client's insurance broker. We
Uh,
work with the client's technology team, the security team. So we have a security team also that benchmarks all of the security from outside looking in. Most companies have, tech people that are inside and protecting from the inside out and all of that. We actually benchmark them also from outside in, and we give them that report as well for the technology team or their MIS team or whoever is providing security.
right.
So it's a dual purpose report analysis and benchmark that we provide for companies.
As I've also heard of the term ethical hacker. Do you have ethical hackers involved? You know what I'm saying? Is that the right word to help you figure out like glitches or
It's amazing that you brought that up. So when you do get a ransom attack and you're blue screened and you're down, you will have a step-by-step process to get back in if you choose to pay the ransom. So
yeah,
it'll tell you how to pay the ransom, how to acquire Bitcoin, a digital currency to get you back up. If you have any questions, contact our helpline. And
right.
it's a big, big business, billions,
It's
billions.
so crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're organizations and they're widespread, and some of them have thousands of employees.
That's insane. I did not.
Mhm.
Oh, and that is just insane of what's going on in our world. But it's not going to get any better. We just need to be. I see it as being proactive, just like how taking care of your health. You need to take care of your information and your money,
Mhm.
uh, business, because it could affect. It doesn't matter what size company
Right.
you
Right.
are.
And, you know, uh, years ago, underwriters for insurance companies and carriers would write insurance policies for cyber. You fill out a form and that's it. And over the last 5 years, we have seen the requirements for security, the bar is being raised by all of the underwriters saying you must have two-factor authentication.
Right.
You need to fill out a form for that and an application for it as well. So there are a lot of things like privileged access management that, if you have that, it brings your security level that much higher. And then then the insurance carriers like you. I mean, they're more apt to give you a better rate. They're more apt to say, yes, we can give you extended terms and higher limits because of your security posture. So you're right, take care of, and people always ask, well, if we have high security, do we still need insurance? If we
Yes.
have insurance, do we still need to go with security? Yes. The answer is yes, you need both. Absolutely. Because
Uh,
there's not one, and I've met with hundreds and hundreds of security companies. There's not one that can say, look, if you put our system in place, we guarantee you'll never get breached. You'll never hear that.
right.
So there are things that get through, and it usually starts with a click on an email, and it's game over. So,
Another thing I was thinking about too, we need to be careful what we share publicly too, like on social media. You know what I'm saying? They can figure that just all this was, I'm really careful about what I share just
mhm.
because people need to change your passwords all the time. That's what my husband always reminds me of.
Passphrases. Don't use a password, use a passphrase.
Yes, I
15,
like, yeah,
15 characters.
right. There's just so many little things that we don't think about, we take for granted because when tech first came out, which is like, it was simpler. But now it's just more complicated, and we just need to be cognizant of that and that we need to get, you know, can't do it by ourselves. And
Right.
you're helping these larger companies, or it doesn't matter what size they are, but you're giving them some good feedback on what they need to do. So,
Yeah.
for what do you think is the most, for a big takeaway, one thing that companies should do at a minimum? I'm just curious.
Well, get a benchmark or an assessment for the insurance. That's the first thing, and that's what drives us to do what we do. That's why companies invite us in to assess and get a real financial quantification of what the damages can be.
Right.
Uh, and that, excuse me, and that's really, really important. Um, the other thing, like you mentioned, social engineering, um, you can't put all that information out there. Try to limit that. But what is really coming on board now is with artificial intelligence. I'm sure you've heard of deep fakes, right?
Yes.
So, I get a phone call from my CFO and he's telling me to transfer money. It's him, it's his voice. So it's, I've gone as far as changing my answering, like when someone dials my cell phone and they get me, I don't have my voice on. I have someone else's voice on it.
Right. That's a good
Um,
idea.
yeah.
That
And
is a really good idea.
because when you get those robocalls, a lot of times they're waiting for you to answer and say hello, 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 and they're recording your voice, and now they have the algorithms for your voice, and they can emulate who you are on a phone call. So it's really important. And the other thing I recommend to people personally is to have a password. Have a password that I know and is is our code word, right? So if you call me and say, "Hey, I'm here and I need money, or I've been abducted, or whatever it is, and can you send money right away?" I would say, "Well, what's the password?" And if you don't know that, I'm not acting on that,
Right. That's a good, see, another great point. And
especially with children, especially with children.
oh yeah.
It's a
My
dangerous.
not my mother, but my mom's mother-in-law, whatever, she got scammed long time ago on something. Uh, it's like her grandson, it really wasn't her grandson. And she, sent, but this is probably like 10 years ago, but she didn't know any better. Right. And it's just crazy. Another thing I was just thinking too, I recommend, I like my iPhone. I have it set on. I do not answer any phone calls, or it doesn't even ring if you're not in my contact list.
Mhm.
I don't, if I don't know who you are, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna pick it up
Mhm.
because I don't wanna get, like you mentioned, they could get my voice if I even pick up.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
guess I
Same
instinctively
thing.
knew that. I instinctively knew
Yeah.
that.
I
Wow.
had a I had a text come my way the other day, and it was for a survey and was very authentic. It was official, and it had a link that,
I had to
click
click
on the
on.
link.
Yep.
We want, and so that is smishing. So it's the phishing emails, and there's SMS phishing, which is smishing, and
Okay.
yeah, and they can actually get in and infect your phone, and from your
Oh,
phone,
wow, yeah.
that's where they go, and
I've
it's
been getting a lot of those lately too, and I just, like, delete and hit junk so that number can't ever come to me or to my number ever again. And
right,
it's just amazing. We just need to be aware, like we mentioned earlier. You got to be preventative. You've got to set the parameters personally and for business.
right. But they're
But
getting so good, Bridget. I mean,
yes, oh,
I've even had emails that I'm like, I don't even know it's from someone I know. And
right,
I'm like, why are they sending me this? Right.
correct. Especially the
Uh,
link that's makes you suspicious.
yeah. So I pick up the phone and I call and I say, "Hey, Bridget, did you just send me something?" And you say, "No, I know, number one, someone has your email, right? Your email's been
Correct.
copied."
Yeah.
And, and I've insured companies before that they were like, "Well, we're really good. We're everything is great and our security is great." And then when I do a search and I have my forensics guys and my IT guys do a search on them, I found out, and this is a big company in Atlanta, millions, millions, and they had 28. email compromises from their board, people that were
Wow.
C-suite, that were email compromises on the dark web and on the deep web,
Oh gosh.
mostly the dark web. Yeah. So
Yes. Well, that's
it's
just
out there. Your information is out there. People, when
weeks.
they talk about data breach, all the data is out there. You just need to protect it, pick your credit, close your credit, shut it off, you know,
That's
lock
one
it.
thing we've done. Ours, you can't do anything with my credit because I have it locked up.
Yeah.
And it was locked up
Well,
because it's been locked up for a long time. But I
yeah.
had AT&T is who saved my life. They called me and said, "Bridget, you're trying to open an account in Kansas." I was like, "What? What?"
Uh,
And they knew I don't live there. And so I'm like, "Thank you." And that's when I went and locked my account. My husband, we lock our accounts.
right.
So
But I mean, it's everywhere. The AI, I mean, they're sending out millions of emails every single day, by FedEx. Um, I've got a package at FedEx. Here, were you home? Blah, blah, blah. I tell my wife, don't open anything. Don't click on anything
yes,
unless I get an eye on it. And she's good
yes.
about it.
Oh,
Mm,
this is good, right? You gotta have good eyeballs. You wanna trust people, but at the same time, you need to question things. It's something and trust you know, I should say your instincts, but a lot of times, some of it is good, but then you just need to, like, be very careful, especially with emails, like you said, and text messages, because you don't want them
right,
to get on your phone, and I'm very fortunate. I have a, um, husband who's super like, don't he's in the tech. So
right,
he's taught me that, right?
right,
It's another simple thing he taught me is like, do not open up like logging into the bank account. Do not have anything else opened at the same.
right.
These things people don't realize that. And I had to share
Make
that
sure you
before.
log off. Make sure you log off.
Everything's
Close.
logged out. And like one of my neighbors, I'm just blab here. She got a ransom thing for her company, her husband's company, because she called my husband about it. We're like, "Did you have other tabs open?" And then she did as she was doing. It's just you just don't know, so we have to be
You
careful.
don't know. You don't know. And that brings us back to, and I don't, it's the CFOs, the biggest mistake they make is on the insurance because they usually have some pretty good tech teams and security, but that's the biggest mistake they make. And I always ask CFOs, what if you're wrong? What if you're wrong? Are you willing to bet your company's reputation and future on a insurance policy? I mean, there's good insurance, there's bad insurance, and then there's no insurance, right? I would
Right.
rather, if you're going to spend, in some of these companies, I wrote insurance policies for $100,000 premium per year. Some are
Wow.
much higher than that. But if you're going to spend $100,000 on a premium for an insurance policy, why not spend 125 or 150 and get the full spectrum
Right.
of what you need? So it's
Oh,
just a big mistake. And I don't blame them for, their job is to make money for the company. It's
right.
not to assess what the financial risk is. Um, but someone needs to do it.
So a lot of these big companies probably also have what I call CTOs, Chief Technology Officer.
Right.
They should help with it. I would think involved in that.
Yeah. Well, CTOs, again, that's the technology, but
Yeah,
they
right,
don't
right.
a lot of times the CSOs, the CISO or
There's
CTO,
so many
they,
Cs. Yeah.
yeah, they don't communicate with the CFO like they should, right? And
Gotcha.
really talk about financial risk. That's what they need to speak about.
Yes. That's
What happens if, um, they speak to them yearly when they want to increase their budget for security, but they don't talk about the compliance officer. If you have one, he may have a better lean in towards the insurance. So, but we had reports I read just recently that 85-90% of companies are all underinsured when it comes to cyber insurance. There was a large health organization recently, and you read about it, everyone read about it, affected, millions of people and all sorts of things. They estimated that their damages were going to be $1 billion,
oh, wow.
and it wound up being 2.4 billion. And some of the claims are still coming in. So, you can't. That's the biggest mistake is underestimating what the damages are going to.
They're just looking at I think a lot of them are trying to save money and they're not like you mentioned, the CTO and the CFOs aren't communicating um, enough, or who knows what the rule.
Crazy.
It's great. Well, this is really a great conversation, and it's very enlightening. We need to know about this and talk about this more. I mean, we people just try to hide it, especially businesses. They want to keep the reputation looking shiny, but everybody's at risk. It doesn't matter.
Everyone's at risk. And I watched it. It was a rerun the other night, but I watched 60 Minutes again on a huge episode about cyber. And it's you can't neglect it. It's
No,
done. And people always say it's not if you're going to get hacked, it's when you're going to get
right. Just
because
surround yourself with the right information and protect it.
Mhm.
This is really
Yeah.
really helpful. And if you're a big company, you definitely need to think about what Ralph just said. You just need to definitely consider all the risks and be preventative. I call it being preventative. Yeah.
Be sure. Don't guess. Be sure.
Yes. Be sure. Well, this is awesome. Where can people learn more about you, Ralph, and your organization?
Uh, the best way, if you want to get a view at what we do, it's care-report.com. And that's our website. It kind of walks you through what we do, who we are. And if you want information, you can put your email in there and we'll contact you. So
That is really good. And for those that are listening, I'll have that link included in the description. And this is really helpful. Even, Ralph, you just, even though I know enough, I'm still learning, right? You still got to keep.
we're all, we're
Yes.
all still learning because it changes. It changes every day. And
Right.
every 11 seconds, there's a company that's getting hacked. And
We
it's
need to.
devastating when it happens. Believe me, I get the phone call and people
Oh,
are
yeah.
panicking. And so, anyways, good luck to you.
Well, I'm so, glad that you're helping people to be aware of this.
It's time
It's
we
so
fix a
real.
lot of this. It needs to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like how you're using the acronym CARE, CARE. That is awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you guys for listening.
All right.